It was supposed to be just another segment in the noisy circus of late-night TV. The cameras rolled, the audience buzzed, and the lights of New York reflected off puddles outside the Ed Sullivan Theater. Inside, Stephen Colbert's studio glimmered with its familiar mix of sharp comedy and political jabs, the perfect place for clever quips and viral one-liners. But nobody knew the night would take a turn that would never make the official broadcast. And it started with Karoline Leavitt. At 26, she was already a lightning rod in American politics, bold, brash, and unapologetically conservative in a cultural moment that demanded either loyalty or resistance. Her very presence on Colbert's couch promised controversy. The audience wasn't sure what to expect when her name was called. Please welcome Karoline Leavitt. The applause was half-hearted, the kind where people clap because the sign tells them to. Karoline strode out with practiced confidence, wearing the kind of smile politicians wear when they know they're stepping into hostile territory. Stephen greeted her, his grin all teeth and playful menace. The first few minutes were the usual sparring match, jokes about her youth, jabs at her party's policies, Karoline parrying each one with charm and deflection. The crowd laughed when prompted, cheered at the right insults, and shifted uneasily when things veered too close to real. And then came the question. The one that was never on the pre-interview notes. Karoline, Stephen said, voice suddenly softer, when you champion policies that cut aid to working families, to single mothers, to sick kids, do you ever think about the faces behind those numbers? The names you'll never know. A hush fell over the room. Karoline had a dozen answers loaded and chambered. She knew how to dodge, how to pivot, how to turn any question into a talking point. It was what she did. It was why she was sitting here. But something in the air changed. She caught sight of a woman standing at the far corner of the studio, pressed against the wall, not a staffer, not an audience member. Silver hair, eyes rimmed red, clutching a photo to her chest like it was a lifeline. Karoline's throat tightened, a strange ache she hadn't felt in years. She tried to speak, tried to deliver the pre-planned answer, but her voice cracked on the first word. The lights felt hotter. The stage seemed to narrow around her. And suddenly, a voice in her head, one she hadn't heard since childhood, whispered, "Don't forget where you came from." Because long before the microphones and interviews, there'd been a tiny house in New Hampshire, where winters meant layering coats indoors, and dinners sometimes came from the church pantry. She remembered the nights her mother cried quietly at the kitchen table over eviction notices. The elderly neighbor, Mrs. Crowley, who left fresh eggs on their porch in the dead of winter with a note that simply read, "Pay it forward someday." Karoline swallowed hard. "I think sometimes we forget that," she finally said, eyes locked on the photograph in the woman's trembling hands. "I know I have." The audience didn't laugh. They didn't clap. They sat in a stunned, rare silence. Stephen blinked, clearly not expecting that. The show cut abruptly to commercial. Backstage was chaos. Producers barked into earpieces. Colbert's assistant tried to intercept Karoline, but she was already heading toward the woman with the photo. The woman's hands trembled as she held it out. A boy, maybe 8 years old. Red hair. Big grin. Hospital gown. "My grandson," the woman said, voice cracking. "Liam. They cut his treatment last month. Said the program funding ran out. I've called every office, every hotline. No one listens. No one calls back. I saw you were coming on tonight, and I thought maybe if you could just..." Karoline didn't hesitate. "What's his hospital? His case manager's name?" The woman blinked in surprise. "You'd help." Karoline took out her phone. "I don't know what I can do, but I'll call." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. People don't stop. They don't listen." Karoline gave a sad, tired smile. "They should." News travels fast in television studios. By the time Karoline left the building, the producers had already clipped the segment to edit around the awkward moment. The story would never air. The cameras hadn't caught the hallway exchange. No one tweeted about it. No op-eds followed. But it didn't matter. Because the next day, Karoline made the calls. She pulled every string, leveraged favors, argued with 3 health administrators, and leaned on the one power she still had, a voice that got calls returned. Within 72 hours, Liam was reinstated in his program. His grandmother wept when she got the call. Karoline asked for no press release, no statement. She didn't even tell her staff. She just kept the boy's photo in her desk drawer. A month later, Stephen Colbert opened his show with a line that made the audience laugh, but left him strangely thoughtful. "We live in a time where it's easy to pick sides and forget faces. But sometimes even the ones you think you know surprise you." No one knew what he was referring to, but a woman in New Hampshire did. And a boy named Liam, alive and grinning in a hospital bed, did too. It didn't fix the world. It didn't undo bad bills or heal every wound. But in one small corner of a hard, cynical world, kindness cracked through. And it was enough to remind them all, humanity isn't a platform. It's a choice. Every day. In quiet hallways. In backstage corners. In the moments no one ever sees.